people that might be victims of hate crimes or gay bashing to defend themselves, and how they're actually left without defense. Well, I mean, particularly if you're, I mean, lots of people come to college, they're 18 years old, they're new to the world. I mean, if there's a young lady who comes to school and wants to protect herself, I mean, when I was at UNH, I was part of the SHARP program, the Sexual Harassment and Rape Prevention Program, and I mean, there's a lot of sexual assaults that happen on college campuses, and to say that women shouldn't have the right to defend themselves, or sexual minorities shouldn't have the right to defend themselves, is just ridiculous. Anyone should have the right to defend themselves.
Woo!
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Whitney Howard. I teach history here.
Oh, hi. Oh, yeah, you commented on something. You taught me something.
Indian stuff.
Thank you.
I just had a question about the last year's Supreme Court ruling, McDonald versus Chicago, 2010. I'm just curious about your interpretation of that. Basically, just for those that don't know that court case at the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, said states had the right to define certain areas as sensitive, so churches, schools, and hospitals, and that states would get to decide that. So I appreciate civil disobedience and wanting to take your case to the New Hampshire Supreme Court. I'm just wondering how you feel about that federal Supreme Court judgment, if you've studied that.
A couple years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court had a case called Heller versus District of Columbia. And it was this exceptional opinion about how the Second Amendment gives you the rights to bear arms and this, that, and the other thing. Then at the very bottom of it, it says this right can be attenuated. And nowhere in the federal Constitution does it say that rights can be attenuated. So after that, because it was it just applied to the District of Columbia, the Chicago case happened, and through the 14th Amendment, they applied the Second Amendment to the states. But there's a very good argument to be made that college students have a right to keep a firearm in their dorm room because that's where they live under the Heller decision. But if you read the New Hampshire Constitution and the New Hampshire state law that we're talking about, the preemption law, it's very clear. The position that the university took in the injunction was that, well, we have this law that says that we can enact rules to regulate how stuff happens on campus. But that was passed way before the firearm preemption law in 2003, and then that law was just reenacted this year to include knives, and it was signed by our Democratic governor, John Lynch. So this law specifically says that no political subdivision of the state may enact these regulations unless the general court specifically by statute says so. And there is no statute anywhere that says that these people have the right to do this. In 1991, the University System of New Hampshire argued that they're a political subdivision in order to sue somebody in federal court. So they are a political subdivision. The state has not said they specifically can do this, and now they have all these rules that are now criminal contempt of court if you violate them. You know, I mean, it's like...
So do you agree with the McDonald decision in 2010 that says the state should determine whether or not they allow sensitive areas like campuses not to have guns, or do you just totally disagree with that Supreme Court ruling?
I disagree with anything that says peaceful people can't choose how to defend themselves.
Okay. And do you think different states should have different interpretations of what they consider sensitive zones, or do you think that should only be at the federal level?
I think everybody should move to New Hampshire for the Free State Project, and we're going to take care of that here.
So, yeah, it's clear that New Hampshire definitely has a different understanding of liberalization issues than, say, Massachusetts or New York. So I understand that state argument. I'm just wondering how you feel about the Supreme Court decision, generally. You would disagree with McDonald versus
I think the Supreme Court is 9 politically appointed politicians who don't care about anyone's rights, to tell you the truth.
Woo! Thank you for that answer.
Thank you, everybody, for taking interest in this, whether you agree with us or not. We just want you to have the right to choose whether or not you want to defend yourself.
Thank you for coming to campus without
Thank
the
you.
weapons. Thank you.
That you know of. For all you know, I can have an MP5 on my back. And that's the point we're trying to make.
I got that, but thank you.
Prove it.
It's about fear. I think it's about legal argument, and I appreciate your civil disobedience and your willingness to do this through a legislative process.
If all good people carried guns, criminals would be out of business tomorrow.
How can students who have no wish to carry or to protect themselves through these guns benefit from the right of others on campus to be able to do that?
In states like Utah, where there's a legislative decree that students at universities can carry guns, or states like Oregon, where the appeals court struck down the entire university system regulation scheme, which is quite similar to New Hampshire, and this happened in September, people know that, oh geez, you know, people of the criminal mindset know that, oh, all these people could be carrying guns. This is not the low-hanging fruit. You know, if students here on your campus petition and get a state law that you can't have guns here, if I was a criminal, I'd want to come here. Because all you people seem like decent people and you probably want to comply with the law, so if your right to protect yourself is taken away, this would be a great place to be a criminal. Whether you carry guns or not, that doesn't matter. It's what criminals think. And it's also about holding the government accountable to what they can and can't do. They're doing something they can't do and they're getting called on it, and now they're calling us domestic terrorists. Doesn't that strike anybody as odd? I mean,
Very.
And wasting a lot of resources.
yeah.
Very odd.
I was a police officer in the state for 11 years. I'm not a domestic terrorist. Yes, sir.
I think a lot of people maybe sort of looking at this more as maybe taking their rights away or putting their rights at risk personally. But I think from a more objective frame, it's way more about equalizing our rights and putting everyone on the same level.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's nothing better about anyone wearing a uniform. The two of us used to wear uniforms.
Exactly.
People wearing it's funny, if we were still wearing uniforms, like, it would be okay. Okay, we could have a gun, right? But now that we're not wearing a uniform, it's not okay. Well, guess what? The people wearing the uniforms work for the people who don't. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. And in New Hampshire, people have a right to carry guns. This is public property, and no one can tell public members who pay taxes that they can't carry guns. But they're doing it through, you know, through this magical court order that it was required that my friend Ian, like, post something on his blog. I mean, this is compelled speech. This is the government saying, you will say this, you know?
Or we'll shoot you. They're the ones you should be afraid of, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Does everyone feel safe because cops carry guns because they've had a training course? So
You know
if
how-
everyone here had taken a
I
training
don't.
course, we would all feel just as comfortable as that man standing right there. He's standing there in confidence because he's taken a training course and he's held a gun before.
We are going to put on a firearm safety class in January, and then if any of you are afraid of guns, come in January to our firearm training class, and then you can decide. Like, guns aren't that scary if you learn about them.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah.
Also, for the students, Pemigewasset Fishing Game is right down there. I'm an alum. I was a commuter. I shot a lot when I went here. You know, never did bring any weapons onto campus because I was aware of that policy. But outstanding range down there. I know that they offer classes, so that if it's something that you might be curious about, look up Pemi Fishing Game.
Brad, can you talk about the response times by law enforcement? I mean, can we rely on men and women with badges to protect us?
I would say that the people who work in law enforcement genuinely want to do what they can to keep people safe, but the fact is that the amount of police that exist simply cannot keep people safe. If a criminal wanted to come here and hurt people, by the time the police got there, I mean, something just happened in Norway where their people were slaughtered because no one had a gun, and this terrorist got a gun and showed up and just killed people. Like, if like I said, I'm going to repeat myself, if all good people carried guns, criminals would be out of business. There's nothing criminals could do. And there's so many more good people than there are criminals.
Do you have any idea, since you're a police officer, how much of our state's resources and money is being spent on all the police officers here? Because you are a very dangerous person.
Well, you know what? They're afraid of losing control. They want to control you. And they're afraid they're losing control because we're pointing out that they're doing something specifically that they can't. They want to control you and tell you what you can do, where you can go, when you can do it, and if you don't do it, you're going to sit in a cage. We want you to be able to defend yourself and do what you want so long as you don't hurt anybody else, which is why you should go to freestateproject.org.
Yeah, you can just see all the money being wasted right now and all the extra cops support right now.
I don't feel any safer.
We're so
because of it.
dangerous.
I don't feel any safer.
This is our weapon, teaching you about what your rights are.
I feel like they're telling me how to react to his statements. They're saying you're going to react this way because I'm standing here and that's how it's going to be done.
They said a siren would sound if a massive terrorist situation broke out. I mean, I read your president's press release. It was completely hyperbolic and it was completely designed to make you think that you shouldn't have the right to have firearms. I mean, the administration here has got people so ginned up about this that there's people working right now to write their legislators to have their rights taken away.
But isn't that their democratic right to
Democracy-
petition the legislature, just as much as it's your right to be here?
Democracy
Should
is
we
two-
not encourage our students to write?
Democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner.
So you don't believe in democracy?
I believe democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. It's nice when you're a wolf.
So what alternative government would you have us have?
Self-ownership.
So no government?
I have whatever the people choose, whatever community
That's
choose
democracy,
to.
what the people choose.
No, they can choose to live in a voluntary society where they can have all services provided to them.
Without any government organization? That's
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying privatized. The private sector always provides better than the government does. The government provides failure. That's all it provides. The private market offers solutions.
Do you know that the Supreme Court has ruled time and time again that the police have no obligation to protect anybody? There's no duty to protect. There's a big case where a woman called 911 a bunch of times because she was being raped in DC and the police never showed up. She sued and the Supreme Court said too bad. I don't have the exact citation, but if you Google what I told you, you can come up with it. The government has no obligation to protect anybody, which is why you need to have the right to protect yourself.
Not the individual.
Exactly. What they said was the government has to protect society as a whole, but if you get killed, sorry.
You meant well.
We meant well. We'll clean up the mess.
But I believe you said earlier you believe that most of the police force were here to do good and serve.
Oh yeah, I think this deputy sheriff over here, I think he's legitimately trying to do the right thing, but unfortunately the right thing is not always what you're told to do.
Can you address why you spoke against students participating civically in their right to petition the government for change? You sound like you were degrading that process that's happening in the hub. And I would think because of your stand on civic engagement, you would support students making their choice politically to engage in civic, not democratic with the students.
Their choice, what they're doing is they're using the force of government to try and strip rights away from other people. That's what they're doing. Because if they manage to convince the general court to pass a law to take people's firearms rights away, if you say, you know what, I'm a good person, I'm going to carry a gun anyway, you will be arrested and you'll be put in a jail cell for doing something the Constitution says you have the right to do. So I don't have a problem with people being civic-minded. I have a problem with people taking other people's rights away.
So you do support our students writing letters to the legislator, even though you disagree with their stand?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Earlier it sounded like you were not
I have
with their
a problem with them thinking the solution to this is to use the state to take people's rights away. I take issue with that, and I think they're probably really good people who are misguided.
Do you think our president's reaction and statements has misled students and feel like a different situation was going to be happening?
Absolutely. Nowhere in her statement did she say these two guys who were showing up have no criminal history. One was a New Hampshire police officer for 11 years, and the other was honorably discharged from the Army. We're here trying to point out to you that the government isn't following the rules. In this society, we are the people, and we are supposed to be in charge, not them.